Hi, everyone, and welcome to Moonlit Scary Stories. We're your hosts, Skylar and Cameron, and today I will start where we stopped with the Jennifer Short murder.
In this podcast, we need to warn you of the possibility of language that may not be appropriate for all ages and to some may be offensive. The content we go over in this podcast is recommended for mature audiences and a trigger warning due to the content consisting of child murder.
All right, so in the last episode of Jennifer Short, uh, we left off. We no Michael and Mary Short. They were found dead, shot in the head while they were sleeping inside their home, and their 9-year-old daughter Jennifer is missing. All right, so this
Mhm.
is they found her August 15th, 2002. Um, so after weeks of the community and after weeks that the community investigators, searched everywhere for little Jennifer, Lieutenant Spence, the lead investigator on the case, tried everything in his power to help find her and, as well as everyone else in the community pitching in to help bring Jennifer home. Well, on September 25th, 2002, 41 days after Jennifer's appearance, scattered remains of a little girl are found in a field near a pond. Lieutenant Spence looked at the crime scene, took the crime. Well, well, excuse me. Lieutenant Spence told Crime Watch Daily that, and he took them to the bridge that is now named the Jennifer Short Memorial Bridge, where he suspected she was thrown over. He said they found her bones in a pasture next to the pond, scattered throughout the woods, and it took them 3 days to collect this little girl's body.
Mm.
Like, this is so sad.
And how long had she been dead?
Well, at this point, they just found her body. So they didn't really get into the specifics because he said that he remembered carrying her body out of a paper bag to the examiner's office. So this was pretty much September 25th, 26th, and 27th. But then on October 4th, they confirmed, like they absolutely confirmed that was her bones and that she was actually shot in the head just like her parents. So it
Uh,
seemed to me she might have when I read this article and listened to this video about it, it seemed to me that she might have gotten killed the August 15th. Just because unless they charred her body, I don't know. Unless they burned her body up and then just scattered her bones, which I don't know. I wish I could have that authority to look at the ME's report because I wonder if were the bones charred or was it just like her it seemed to me like none of her skin or anything was on her body. It seemed to me in the picture that they shows just her bones. So I mean, it could have had animals eat it. I don't know. I don't know I don't know what her state her body was when they threw her over the bridge. And it in the research I did, it didn't say either.
okay.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know. But so she was just shot in the head just like her parents. Um so finding the body in that location, which is in North Carolina now. We're in North Carolina. Finding that body in that location led police to another person of interest, and you might have heard this name, a man named Gary Bowman. Uh,
Yep.
yeah, so they were. This is pretty much what they got on him. Bowman lived about a mile from where the remains of Jennifer was found, and get this, he left one day after the murders. So August 16th, he leaves to Canada. But he didn't stay in Canada for too long. You know why?
Why?
Because he was picked up in Canada and ordered to be deported from Canada due to not declaring an old DUI conviction.
Hmm.
Yeah. So that was enough to get him deported from Canada. And I in the timeline that I'll speak about pretty much states when I think they spent $10,000 for this trip, and they took a team of investigators up to Canada to get Mr. Bowman and bring him back, because Lieutenant Spence and his team starts looking at him very, very hard. Um, it doesn't say in some of the stuff that I've researched, it doesn't say why they looked at him, but I did find an article about it, talking about Bowman, and you know, he was 66 years old, and the reason he became prominent in the case was because of his landlord of the property that he stayed in Mayodan, so near Stoneville, North Carolina, Mayodan, North Carolina. And you might have heard this name before too, Gary Lemons.
Yes.
Yeah, he told deputies 3 days after the murders that Bowman had told him he might have to kill a Virginia man, quote, he might have to kill a Virginia man who failed to move Bowman's mobile home moving business. And Lemons also said, quote, saw Bowman leaving the building a false bottom in his 2001 Ford van, and also saw him with a pistol in his hand on the day of the shootings, which was the same day a friend of Gary Bowman said that he spent 2 hours with him and saw no gun.
Hmm.
Yeah. So like, yeah. So you have this suspect who went to Canada a day after the murders, but you also have this person saying that he pretty much told him he was going to have to kill a Virginia man, and this person also saw him build a false bottom in his Ford van, and also saw him with a gun. But turn around, wait a minute, this close friend of the suspect says that he spent 2 hours with Bowman that day that the shooting happened and saw no gun.
Hmm.
So
So maybe he was trying to frame him.
I don't know. It looks a little suspect. It's a little it's a little suspect about this,
Suspicious.
because the suspicious. That's the word. Sorry, guys. Um, I know I was thinking of the word and I was like, what is it? But no, he but wait a minute, just wait. It gets a little bit more fishy. Lemons also told deputies that he entered Bowman's rental house on the same property where he kept the mobile home as his workshop shortly after the murders. Okay. And he found a map of Virginia counties. One of the maps, he said, had been marked in red with the location of the Short home in Bassett, and court records indicate that deputies searched the house and removed maps and other items and did not find anything that pretty much connected him to the murder anyway. So that's why they pretty much let him go.
But
Well, I guess I think I read that they did a lie detector test as well
on Bowman.
on Bowman.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just making sure I was
Yeah. But Bowman did die in 2014 at Christmas. He was found dead um, of natural causes. So, you know, he is no longer with us. So,
so if he did do it, we may not ever know.
yeah, if he did do it, we may not never know. But we, I don't know that Lim with all this he said, she said, and that person, Mr. Lemon's trying to point it to Bowman. It just makes me feel uneasy. Like, I don't know, and I think Gary Lemons did go in as well and did a lie detector, but we all know that, like, even if they did a lie detector test, they could have tampered with it. They could have found a way. There's ways to pass a lie detector test. You know,
Yeah.
like, people do it all the time. some people get away with it, some people don't.
I don't think they even use them anymore.
Yeah, yes, because
I don't
they're
think.
not, yeah, they're not dependable for any kind of evidence.
Yeah, it's not a reliable source of
Yeah,
evidence.
yeah. So along with this, almost 2 decades later, there's no leads, no suspects, and a cold trail. They don't want to call it a cold case because even to this day, they still search the DNA bases database for leads. Like now, I don't know about you, but I've heard, you know, there, like I said in the past episodes, your DNA, if you get caught with doing anything, your DNA or and go and be booked for jail or be booked, your DNA is in the system and it's in the system forever. It doesn't just go away. So if there is ever a crime scene and your DNA shows up, they're gonna ping it. So they still search to this day, and they still haven't gotten anything. So either the
Well, what
person,
DNA? So they have DNA, they just don't have anyone to match it to.
see, they where it's such a where it's still open. I don't think they can release that evidence. Just like we're seeing in this recent case of murder that's going on in the news now, like they can't release a lot of evidence because they're still trying to they because they can only me and my fiance talked about this. They can only charge you for murder one time in a case. So that's why they used Bowman's DUI conviction and deportation of Canada to be able to even get him into police custody.
What did they check his DNA?
I'm pretty sure there's articles of witnesses saying, Bowman's demeanor and how he acted. They said he wouldn't hurt a soul. One person quoted in an article said in an article quote he won't hurt a soul or something. So I guess it turned out to be he didn't do it, but I think my fiance had up until this point of the investigation that I researched. Me and him have talked about it, and he's even said that the map thing wasn't. He doesn't think he thinks that he found Lemons found the map, but he doesn't think Lemons found the map where he said he found the map. I think they were trying to frame him, honestly. I think they were trying to frame Bowman, but just because he had connections to the family, he and they tried to frame him. I honestly think it's more than one person involved in this, and they got together and said, "Hey, let's just pick the easiest target. He lives in a mobile home, does a mobile home business with the shorts. Let's just try to frame him." And then all of a sudden he comes to detectives and FBI with all this information after Jennifer was found 41 days later. It doesn't add up. I don't know about you, but it doesn't add up to me.
Why
Um,
did he wait?
what?
I said it doesn't add up because it's like, why did he wait?
Exactly. And it doesn't add up to I don't know. The Canada thing doesn't make because they even said in another article that he had planned to move. Like, and you know, I'll go on in a minute and tell you what her aunt said. Um, well, yeah, her aunt. Um, because to this day, it's that they're still looking for the killer. Uh, speaking about the aunt, that's where I'm at now. so So Jennifer's aunt Carolyn, in an article and in an interview the local news station, said, and this is all quote. She said she couldn't help but wonder what Jennifer would be like if she were still alive today. She thinks about it all the time. She said that Jennifer was kind of shy until she got to know you, just like her mom. But once she got to know you, she was a lot like her dad, Mike. a lot of mouth. um,
Mhm.
and she goes on to like little chuckle, but you can tell the family's hurt about this, even 20 years later, almost 20 years later. They I don't know. They still do, and I'll talk about this. They still raise awareness by doing some stuff, but her aunt also said that Jennifer, Michael, and Mary were kind people who also stayed to themselves, which has made the question of why anyone would want them dead so puzzling to investigators. So, I mean, they still haven't found anything wrong with this family. Like I would expect them to find something about the family because it's been 20 years. Um,
Yeah, for the killer.
yeah, yeah. And she also, like, in this article, she also goes, which I read this a little bit after I had, you know, figured out about what they did with Gary Bowman or whatever. But she did say at the time of the murders, Michael made a living moving mobile homes. So we know that he's got that business, and that, I mean, that kind of portrays to what Lemons said about Bowman, but it still don't make any sense because uh, she also said Mary had worked factory jobs, and the detectives even looked into tips that someone at work might have stalked her years before, but those leads didn't go anywhere either. And she they saw, you know, at around the time of that day, they convenience store worker said, you know, Jennifer was known to show up at a convenience store near her home from time to time, and they have her on video showing up at the store. Um, so like they saw her the day of. But hours before the murder, they also saw them all the whole family eating at Burger King restaurant in Collinsville, Virginia. So the officer Perry also believed someone out there knows what happened long after that meal. So they've got them up to the time they ate a meal that day, and then they got the worker, you know, seeing him that night, and then after the worker leaving, I guess is when it happened.
I'm still curious as to if this person killed Jennifer Short the same day that they killed her parents.
Yeah, and I would love to see, and that's probably one of the things they're withholding from some of the reports is because they can't say certain things, like I said earlier. So they might just have it in. They might know, but they're not telling us just because. I mean, they think the killer. I mean, they're still getting tips, and I'll go into that a little bit later. But they're still getting tips, so I think they're just withholding that certain information from the public just because it's an ongoing investigation still. Um,
So if they did kill her the same time, I wonder why they took her with them.
exactly. Like there's a lot of things. I'm not trying. I'm not accusing. Let me make this clear. I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but looking at from my point of view, there are a lot of things after they found the body that happened with those two men after the fact that makes me believe that something else happened. And it could, like I've said, it could have been three people or two people or one person. It I don't know. We don't know. But I don't know if you know this or not, but Gary Lemons used to own a car, uh, like car junk yard thing in
Yeah.
Madison. Yeah. Well, a few months, and I now I'm gonna talk. I think we talked about this. Me and him did a few months. I think he said, or a few weeks after Jennifer got missing or became missing. Guess what blows up? Guess what catches on fire?
Car lot or backyard, whatever.
Yes, yes. His car lot catches on fire. So, and then her body shows up a little time after. I don't know.
Hmm.
I'm just looking at other things that's happened between that's connected to these people. And I think he also mentioned to me that Lemons was investigated for a few murders a few years back. And then one of the men that he believes to have been involved, which I'm not going to say that name because it's not in any articles, but one of the men that he believes to be involved was convicted of child being a child predator, being you know what I'm trying
Child
to say.
molest. Yeah.
Yes.
Pedophile.
Yeah. Yeah. So he was convicted in a different state for being that a few years after a few years after Jennifer Short was murdered, he moves states because he was actually in prison for a little bit. Um, but he moved states and he was convicted of being a pedophile to a under 12-year-old little girl.
Hmm.
So, yeah. And get this is before that article about Bowman Lemons telling about the map, I'm sure he mentioned, which I think he's already gave this tip in, but he mentioned that he he had a friend that knew about the map before the article did. So I don't, and that friend said that other person was in possession of it, which they can't claim it now, but I mean they could still. I think they still tipped off the FBI about it. So I don't I don't know. It's just like I said, events that happen in between that, and I'll give you a timeline because it's not over. It's not over. They think you like the articles pretty much ended this and ended them talking about how they every August on the anniversary of the crime, they do a memorial bike ride that's held to raise awareness. But they all also think during that time is could the killer be lurking nearby? Like, are they in the crowd? Like every time she said, the aunt said, every time I go on that bike ride, I wonder if this person's out there looking around, thinking, could that person be here? Um, and that's coming up on the 20th anniversary, and they always say killers revisit the crime scene, and I'm hoping this year they'll close this case, but there's bukus of tips um, about everything, considering everything that happened. So yeah, this it's pretty much it's sad. It's really sad that I feel sorry for the family that has to endure this. I
I
could
just,
never.
it just doesn't make any sense. Like, this was just a random, possibly a random murder.
Yeah,
Like, there's nothing linking as to why these people were killed. Like, nothing showing debt, no infidelity, no anything.
yeah, yeah. I know. Like it just amazes me, honestly. It because like I said, whoever did it was either smart or got lucky because they knew what they're doing. That they knew they what they were doing with the phone line. They knew they. I mean, I'm about to tell you the timeline of everything that I got from an article, and you know, it kind of it's kind of weird. But yeah, so what's your thoughts up until this point? Like we know they found her body. Like it's still an ongoing investigation to this day. They haven't they had two suspects pretty much. I mean, what do you think?
Well, they didn't have enough evidence to convict those people or um, indict them or whatever. But I don't think they're ever going to solve this case. I, it's sad, but I think this is one of those cases that's never going to get solved because someone out there knows something and they're not saying anything, or you. And
Exactly.
I mean, the person could be dead at this point,
Yeah. Yeah.
or they just can't link all the evidence to one person, or there could have been contaminated evidence that couldn't be used. So it's almost been 20 years, so I don't think it's going to get solved. If it does, it'll be a miracle.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm hoping like if somebody, I mean, it's a small community. So if somebody knows about the case and knows, you know, goes back to that time in 2002 of how old they were, what they were doing, or if they even remember anything about it, like go ahead. There's no, they say no tip is too stupid not to report. Because, I mean, looking at this recent case, social media did a hell of amazing job. But then again, there are so many other people missing and women missing still to this, like going on now, that it doesn't get, they don't get a lot of, I guess, social media air. There's some social media influencers that talk about all the missing women and missing children, but it's kind of epidemic. I mean, I know it's kind of not, I know it's not the right word, but I mean, women and children go missing every day. So it
Yeah,
kind of sucks that certain cases get this attention, certain cases don't. But then again, any tips not stupid. um,
yeah,
so let me go through the timeline that I got from an article, and then I guess we'll leave that off of there. And the next episode we'll talk about tips and uh, theories that have surfaced on Reddit and in the news and everything else, because I've got a few comments on a video that I found that I'll read as well, about the fan that people's commented about, that's seen some of the videos that the local news has done and Crime Watch has done. So start at August 14th, 2002. Michael Short and an employee spent the evening working on a truck. Mary Short picks up a late dinner for the family at a nearby fast food restaurant. Investigators have little information about what happened after midnight. August 15th, 2002, investigators arrived to the Short family home off of 220 in Oak Level, Virginia before 9 a.m. Sorry, guys, one of my dogs was barking. I apologize. They're okay though. They're just wanting attention. One of Michael Short's employees found the couple dead in their home, both killed by a single gunshot wound to the head. That same day, an Amber Alert is issued for 9-year-old Jennifer Short, and the search for the little girl begins. Investigators spend at least 2 weeks in the home collecting evidence. Excuse me for 1 second, guys. Let me make sure they're okay. And we're back. Uh, August 23rd, 2002, the funeral is held for Michael and Mary Short. Investigators filmed the church service for any red flags or odd behavior, but find none. September 4th, 2002, Michael Short's body is uh, exhumed for further testing. September 25th, 2002, remains are found on a private property in Stoneville, North Carolina, in Rockingham County by the Albert family. Officials send samples in for identification. October 4th, the remains are identified as those of Jennifer Short. October 5th, 2002, investigators announced that they traveled to Yellowknife, Northwest Territory, Canada, to find the material witness, a 60-year-old Garrison Bowman from Madison, North Carolina. October 7th, Garrison Bowman Garrison Bowman appears in court. Sorry, this is a little jumbled, but he appeared in court and then about claiming he violated immigration laws, and then he was deported from Canada 4 days later, so October 7th, 8th, 19th. Yeah, so October 11th, he was deported from Canada and returns to the U.S. by October 15th, by October 22nd, excuse me. But during that time, the 11th through the 22nd, they have a team of investigators going to Canada. And that's when they left off on October 15th. So October 30th, Bowman appears in court in Roanoke, Virginia, and is released from custody. November 12th, 2002, Bowman appears before a grand jury in Roanoke. The grand jury never returned an indictment. December 7th, the Short family home is auctioned off. September 30th, 2003, the medical examiner exhumed Jennifer's remains for forensic purposes. No one ever said if the exhumation revealed any more evidence or not. So they haven't said anything since then about her body. March 18th, 2009. So skip to 2009 now. FBI releases a sketch of a man possibly seen near the home during the time of the murders. The suspect of the man is described as in his early 40s with a weathered complexion. A year later, May 7th, 2010, federal agents visit several South Carolina cities to talk to people about the case. The FBI stops in Bennettsville, Conway, Florence, and Myrtle Beach, where Michael Short had made several trips to those cities months before him and his family had died, and also had considered moving to the state in South Carolina. And then lastly, February 20th, 2019, Short family home burns down.
And that was what year?
2019.
Oh, what happened?
So they pretty much, the news article that I had gotten from about the burning of the home pretty much said there. This is where it gets so freaking, I don't know. So it pretty much, a fire destroyed it in February, and the plot of land, of course, now, like I said, was an empty field, but it they they said that in the article, they said that they don't understand why why it burned. Like, they don't, nothing raised their suspicions that the fire, yeah, nothing, I don't know.
So they didn't figure out why?
No, because even her aunt was like, how does a house catch on fire? They didn't have a storm. There was no electricity in the house for months. Like, she seems, it just she just doesn't understand, and I don't understand it. There's nothing. I don't know what the fire. I know the fire chief had to have made a report, but I don't know. I haven't found any evidence for that. But she also mentioned they cleaned it up quickly. It seems to me something is trying to be hid.
Who cleaned it up quickly?
I guess whoever had bought it from the auction, and I don't really know who bought it from the auction, but I don't know. I don't know.
Hmm.
Yeah. So yeah. So that's where I'm going to stop before we uh show you. Well, I pretty much tell you what the evidence that they have, and what who the key players were or are in the investigation, and the tips. I spoke about the sketch, but we'll have a picture to show of the sketch that I found on the internet, from one of the articles, and show the truck that they believe. Like, there's still so much more that I have left of this research, just because there's so many clues that they've gotten over the last 2 decades, I guess, that I'm pretty sure that I don't know. Like you said, I hope that they find the killer, but I don't know. I don't know. It's
Mm,
sad.
it is sad.
So
Okay.
off to a happy note. Our social media.
We're Moonlit Scary at Twitter. And then we're Moonlit Scary Stories on Instagram. And then you can email us at moonlitscarystories@gmail.com. Anything if you just want to reach out and talk to us, give us some constructive criticism, anything. We are here for it. So you can
Yeah.
reach out to us on any of those, and we would appreciate it.
Awesome.
Thank you guys for listening.
Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.